The alien girl was born under a silver sky. Her world was full of tall crystal towers and glowing rivers, yet her heart carried a heavy weight. From the moment she was young, whispers followed her through the streets. She was beautiful, her eyes shining like twin moons, but behind her smile was a pain no one could heal. The doctors had spoken the words when she was still a child. Her body could never carry life. To her people, children were not only family, they were honor, tradition, and the promise of tomorrow. Without children, she was seen as broken, a shadow of what a daughter should be. Every glance from her neighbors was a knife, every whisper a reminder that she was different. Her mother knew this truth. The mother was a proud woman, tall and strong, her face carved with stern lines. She wanted her daughter to rise in their society, to be respected, to continue the family's name. But when the doctor spoke, her dreams fell like glass. The mother did not cry in public. She only pressed her lips tight. And from that day, her love grew heavy like chains. The alien girl lived under those chains. Her mother's voice was always near, sharp like cold steel. "You must hide your weakness," the mother would say. "Do not let them see your shame." The girl nodded. But inside her heart cracked again and again. She dreamed of freedom, of a world where she was not judged for what she could not give. But dreams were far away, locked behind the walls of her people's rules. At night she would sit by the glowing river, her reflection dancing with the light. She asked herself the same question over and over. Why me? There was no answer, only the cold air and the sound of water. She longed to be normal, to laugh with other girls about their future children, to hear a mother's gentle words, not her mother's anger. But fate had chosen another road for her, a road full of silence and shadows. The girl carried her secret into every part of her life. When she walked in the market, eyes followed her. When she spoke, voices softened. After she left, her beauty was praised. But behind the praise was pity. Men looked at her with interest, but once they knew the truth, their eyes turned away. Every rejection was another scar, every silence another cut. Her mother grew restless. She feared the family would lose all respect, so she began to plan, her thoughts sharp, her decisions cruel. Perhaps another world, she whispered to herself. Perhaps another people will not care about this weakness. The mother's eyes turned toward Earth, a world of humans, a race new to the stars, a race known for being strange, stubborn, and impossible. The alien girl did not yet know her mother's plan. She only felt the growing pressure, like a storm building on the horizon. Her nights grew longer, her dreams darker. Sometimes she saw a faceless figure in those dreams, someone reaching for her. But when she tried to touch them, they vanished, leaving her alone again. She woke with tears in her eyes, her heart racing. The silence of her room pressed on her like a prison. Every day she carried herself with grace, her back straight, her voice calm, but inside, she was breaking. She wondered if her life would ever be more than duty and shame. She wondered if she would ever find someone who saw her as more than her curse. But most of all, she wondered if she would ever escape her mother's cold shadow. And yet, hidden in the deep corners of her fate, something was waiting, a meeting that would change her life, a bond that would rewrite the laws of her people. But for now, she only knew pain, and that pain was the hook of her story, the first step into a path that would lead to love, to danger, and to a miracle no one believed possible. The mother of the alien girl was a woman who never bowed to anyone. Her voice carried weight, her steps echoed with power, and her mind was always planning. She had lived long enough to see empires rise and fall, and she promised herself that her family name would never sink into shame. But now, with her only daughter unable to bear children, she felt the future slipping like sand between her fingers. Every day she looked at her daughter with a storm hidden in her eyes. The girl was beautiful, yes, perhaps the most beautiful child born to their clan in generations. But beauty was fragile, and the mother knew it could not protect the family's honor forever. What use was beauty if it carried no future, no children, no heirs? The whispers in the community grew louder, sharper. She cannot carry life, some said. The family line ends with her. Every word was like poison to the mother. She would not let their family be remembered as weak. So she began to search for a way. Her mind turned to alliances, to strangers, to worlds beyond their own. On her desk lay maps of stars and records of treaties. Among them, one name kept returning to her mind, Earth. The humans were new to the galaxy, clumsy and strange, but dangerous in their own way. They were too stubborn to surrender, too wild to be controlled, and most importantly, they did not follow the same laws of blood and honor. To them, family was made by choice, not only by children. The mother thought long and hard. If her daughter married a human, the whispers would stop. Her people would see the union as a bold step, a link between two species. No one would dare insult a family that had tied itself to humanity. And if the human did not care about her daughter's weakness, then the family's shame would be buried. It was a cruel plan, but the mother felt no pity. She told herself this was protection. This was survival. One evening, the mother called her daughter into the great hall. The torches burned with blue fire. The air smelled of iron and smoke. The girl walked slowly, her eyes lowered, sensing something heavy in the air. When she stood before her mother, silence fell, then the mother spoke. Her voice calm but cold. "You will marry," she said. "A human man." The girl froze. Her heart pounding, she looked up with wide eyes. Not sure she had heard correctly. "A human," she whispered, her voice shaking. Her mother nodded once, firm and unyielding. "It is decided," she said. "You will leave this world, and you will stand as the bridge between us and them." The girl's lips trembled. She wanted to scream, to beg, to run. But the weight of her mother's gaze pinned her in place. Inside her chest, pain burned like fire. She had already lost her future, now she was losing her freedom. The idea of marrying someone she did not know, someone not even of her kind, filled her with dread. What kind of man would he be, this human? Would he laugh at her weakness? Would he treat her like an object? Or worse, would he look at her with pity? The same pity she already knew too well. But she could not refuse, her mother's word was law, and to resist was to bring greater shame. So she bowed her head, her eyes shining with hidden tears. "As you command, mother," she said softly. The mother gave no comfort, no gentle touch, she only turned away. Her cloak sweeping across the stone floor in her mind, she believed she had saved her daughter's life. But in truth, she had only pushed her toward a fate unknown. That night, the alien girl lay awake, staring at the ceiling of her chamber. Her heart beat fast, her hands trembled. She wondered what humans were really like. She had heard stories of their wars, of their courage, of their madness. Some said they were monsters in flesh. Some said they were heroes in disguise. But no story could tell her what it would mean to share her life with one. The darkness whispered questions she could not answer. Would he hate her? Would he use her? Or would he simply ignore her? And yet deep inside, a tiny flame of curiosity stirred. What if the human was different? What if he saw her not as broken, but as whole? The thought frightened her as much as it comforted her. She closed her eyes, and in the silence, a single tear slipped down her cheek. Tomorrow her life would no longer be her own. Tomorrow she would begin a journey into the arms of a stranger from a world she had never touched, a world called Earth, and far away, under the same stars, that human man was waiting. He did not yet know her name, but fate was already drawing them together. Two lives from two worlds about to collide, and in that collision, the universe itself would be changed. The human man was not a warrior, not a prince, and not a leader. He was an ordinary man, born on Earth under a quiet sky. He had worked in small jobs, lived a modest life, and dreamed of something greater. When he was chosen for the strange marriage, he did not understand why, but deep inside, he felt that destiny was calling him. His name was Daniel, and though his hands were rough with labor, his heart was gentle. He had seen enough pain in his life to know how to be kind. He had lost family, lost friends, and yet he still carried hope like a torch that refused to die. When the officials told him he was to wed an alien woman, he laughed at first. It sounded like madness, like something from an old story. But when he looked into the eyes of the officials, he saw no joke, only truth, and so he accepted, though he knew nothing of what awaited him. The first time Daniel saw her was like standing before a storm. She was dressed in robes of silver, her eyes glowing softly. She was beautiful beyond words, yet her face was carved with sadness. She did not smile, did not greet him with warmth. She stood tall, distant, like a queen who did not wish to rule. Daniel's heart beat faster, not because of her beauty alone, but because he saw the shadow she carried. It was a shadow he recognized, the same kind he had carried in his own chest many years before. He bowed to her, simple and honest. "I am Daniel," he said softly, "and I will stand by you." The alien girl looked at him with cold eyes. As if testing his spirit, she gave no reply, only a slow nod. Her silence did not wound him, for Daniel understood silence. He had lived with it, dined with it, slept with it when loneliness was his only companion. From that day, their lives were tied together. The marriage was performed with rituals alien to Daniel, songs in a language he could not understand, but he did not care for the ceremony, only for the life that would follow. The alien girl, however, felt trapped, each word of the vows like a chain binding her to a stranger. She told herself she would endure, that this was only her mother's will, not her own. Her heart was locked away, and Daniel could not find the key. Days turned into weeks. Daniel tried to speak to her, tried to learn her ways, her world, her thoughts, but she answered with short words, or silence. He cooked meals as best as he could. Though the food of her people was strange to him, he fixed things in their home, simple acts of care, and still she sat apart, staring at the window, lost in her own storm. Most men might have grown bitter, might have shouted or walked away, but Daniel only waited, patient as the earth waits for rain. At night he sometimes heard her cry. Though she tried to hide it, he did not move to touch her, for he knew that would only break her further. Instead, he whispered to the dark, words meant for her, though she could not hear. "You are not alone," he would say, "even if you think you are." The alien girl lay awake, hearing nothing, but in her dreams she sometimes felt warmth, a warmth she did not understand, but one that made her heart tremble. The people of her world watched the human with curiosity. Some laughed, calling him weak, calling him unworthy. Others whispered that humans were dangerous, unpredictable. But Daniel did not answer their scorn. He simply lived each day with quiet strength. He was not perfect, not mighty, but he was steady. And that steadiness was something rare, something the alien girl had never known. One evening, as the twin moons rose above their city, Daniel found her standing alone by the glowing river. Her eyes reflected the water, full of sorrow. For a long moment he stood behind her, unsure if he should speak. Then he stepped forward, his voice gentle. "I don't know your pain," he said, "but I see it." She turned, startled, her lips parting as if to answer. But no words came. He did not press her, did not demand her trust. He only stayed beside her, silent, letting the moment belong to her. That night was the first time she looked at him differently, not as a stranger, not as a chain, but as a man who did not run. Her heart did not open, not yet, but a single crack appeared in the wall around her soul, and through that crack something new began to stir, something she had never dared to believe in, something that would one day grow into the miracle of their story. The marriage between the alien girl and the human man began like winter, cold, quiet, and without warmth. They lived under the same roof, but their hearts stood far apart to her. He was a stranger forced into her life, a reminder of chains. To him she was a mystery, closed behind walls of silence. The house they shared was not small, nor was it grand. It was a dwelling made for two. With soft lights and wide windows, Daniel tried to fill it with life, arranging flowers from the market, cooking meals that carried the smell of earth. But she sat across from him in silence, her gaze always distant. Sometimes she would answer with a word, sometimes with none. Her voice was polite, but cold. It was not cruelty, it was distance. A distance she had built to protect herself. Daniel did not push her. He knew that forcing kindness was no kindness at all. So he moved gently, like a man walking across thin ice. He asked about her world, her childhood, her dreams. But each time she closed her heart tighter, her answers came like stones dropped into water, sinking with no echo. At night, the bed they shared was wide and empty. Daniel kept to his side, never reaching, never demanding. He lay awake sometimes, staring at the ceiling. He wondered if he would spend his whole life with silence for a companion. But he did not regret his choice. There was something in her eyes, something broken but strong, and he knew deep inside that broken things could still be healed. The alien girl too lay awake in the night. She listened to his breathing, steady and calm. She wondered why he never shouted, never forced his will. The men of her world were proud, sharp, and cruel. But this human was different. He carried strength, yet he never used it against her. It confused her, and confusion was dangerous to a heart that wanted only to stay closed. Days passed like shadows. They walked together through markets, sat together at meals, yet they lived apart. Their neighbors whispered, "The marriage is strange," they said. "The alien girl gives no love and the human accepts it." Some laughed, some pitied, some waited for the bond to break. But Daniel ignored the voices. He moved through his days with calm steps, as if the whispers did not exist. Still, The alien girl felt the weight of their eyes. She hated the pity most of all. She wanted to scream that she did not need love, that she did not need pity, but deep inside, she longed for something she could not name. Her silence was her shield, but her silence was also her prison. One evening, rain fell across the city. The sky glowed with lightning, the streets sang with thunder. Daniel sat near the window watching the storm. The alien girl stood nearby, arms folded. For a moment their eyes met, and in that moment, something flickered between them. The storm outside echoed the storm inside her. She wanted to speak, to say even a small word, but fear held her tongue, and the moment passed. The cold marriage continued, yet beneath the cold, something small began to move. It was not love, not yet, but it was the faintest spark of understanding. Daniel noticed the small things, the way she paused before answering, the way her eyes softened for a second before turning away, and she noticed him too, the way he worked with steady hands, the way he laughed quietly at his own mistakes. She would never admit it. But she found herself listening when he spoke, even when she gave him no reply. Her mother visited once, her eyes sharp as always. She looked at the couple and asked coldly, "Is it working?" The alien girl lowered her head and gave no answer. Daniel only smiled politely and said, "We are learning." The mother frowned. Displeased, she wanted proof. She wanted power. She wanted the union to shine before the people. But Daniel's calm words gave her nothing to hold. She left in silence, her cloak swirling like smoke after that visit. The alien girl sat alone for hours. Her heart battled within itself. She had lived her whole life under her mother's shadow. Now here was a man who gave her freedom even inside duty. She hated it and she needed it. She wanted to push him away, and yet part of her wanted him to stay. The marriage was cold, yes, but cold earth can still hold seeds, and deep in the silence of their home, those seeds waited for the right season to grow. Neither of them knew when the season would come. Neither of them knew what miracle would follow, but both of them, in their own hearts, felt that something was waiting just beyond the silence. The alien girl lived each day in quiet distance. Her heart was still locked, her voice still guarded, but the human man remained patient, calm as a stone in a river. He did not force her to love. He did not demand her trust. He simply stayed, steady and unshaken. It might have continued forever, this cold balance. But fate has a way of breaking silence when the time is right. The change began on a day of danger, a day when the city trembled, and she saw the human's heart in a way she had never imagined. It was evening. The twin moons were low and the streets glowed with crystal light. The alien girl had gone to the market alone. She wished to escape the walls of her home. Even for a little while she walked through the stalls, listening to merchants call out their wares. Her hands brushed over fabrics, over fruits that shimmered with light. For a short time she felt almost free, but freedom turned quickly into fear. A group of men approached, their eyes sharp, their voices cruel. They whispered her secret, the one she thought was hidden. "She cannot carry children," one sneered. "She is useless even to her kind." Laughter followed. Sharp and cold, the alien girl froze, her chest tight. Shame and rage twisted inside her, but she said nothing. Her lips pressed into silence. Her eyes lowered. The men stepped closer, their words crueler. One reached for her arm, as if she was nothing more than a thing to mock. But before his hand could touch her, a strong grip caught his wrist. The laughter stopped. Standing there, firm and unyielding, was Daniel, the human. His eyes burned like fire, his voice low and steady. "Let her go," he said. The men sneered. "What will you do, human? You are nothing here." But Daniel did not flinch. He pushed the man back, placing himself between them and the alien girl. He was not armed, not trained for battle, yet his body stood like a shield, his stance like a wall. For the first time, the alien girl saw him not as quiet or weak, but as strong, not the strength of cruelty, but the strength of protection. The men laughed again, but it was uneasy now. Something in Daniel's gaze unsettled them. They muttered curses and walked away. Their pride bruised, the street grew quiet once more. The alien girl stood frozen, her heart racing. She looked at him with wide eyes, unsure of what to feel. He turned to her, his face calm though his breath was heavy. "You are safe," he said softly. "As long as I am here, you are safe." Her chest tightened, not with shame this time, but with something new. She had never known anyone to stand for her like that. Not even her mother, who cared more for honor than for her heart. Her lips parted, but no words came. She only stared at him, her eyes trembling. For the first time, she felt her walls crack. That night, she could not sleep. She lay awake, remembering the way he stood in front of her, the way he had spoken, steady and sure. She whispered to herself in the darkness, why does he care? Why does he not leave? The questions gave her no answers, only a warmth she did not understand. The next day, when Daniel spoke to her, she answered more than before. It was not much, but it was more than silence, he noticed. And a small smile touched his lips. He did not press her, did not celebrate aloud, but in his heart, he felt the first spark of trust had been lit, and he would guard it carefully as if it were fire in the cold days past. And slowly she began to watch him more closely, the way he carried water, the way he fixed small things in the house, the way he looked at her not with pity, but with quiet respect. Each detail etched itself into her heart, and though she tried to hide it, her silence grew softer, less sharp. Sometimes she even found herself waiting for him to speak, as if his voice had become the thread holding her together. The cold marriage was still there, but it was no longer empty. A single spark had entered the dark, a spark of trust, fragile, trembling, yet alive. The alien girl did not know if she could love. She did not know if she could ever heal, but for the first time, she wondered if it was possible. And in that wondering, the first true step toward their miracle began. The alien girl thought her life would always be shadows, even after the human man had defended her. Even after she felt the spark of trust, she told herself it could not grow. She believed she was cursed, broken, and no kindness could change that truth. But fate was already moving, quietly, secretly, preparing to show her something no one had ever seen before. It began with small things. At first, she felt tired more often than usual. She would sit by the window and feel her body heavy, her breath slower, Daniel noticed, his brow furrowed with worry. Are you ill? He asked gently. She shook her head, whispering, no, it is nothing. But in her heart, doubt stirred. Then came the dreams. Strange dreams, brighter than normal. She saw lights, colors swirling like fire across the sky. She heard the sound of a child's laughter, faint but clear. She woke each time with her hand on her stomach, her heart racing. She told herself it was only imagination, cruel imagination, but the dreams returned. Again and again. One morning, she felt sick at dawn. Her body bent, her stomach twisted, and she leaned against the wall with shaking hands. Daniel rushed to her side, his voice full of fear. What is happening? Should I call your healers? She wanted to push him away, to say it was nothing, but her voice failed her. Her chest was tight, her eyes wet. This was not just sickness, it was something else, something she did not dare name. Daniel carried her to the healers of her people. They examined her with their cold instruments, their glowing machines. The alien girl sat still, her heart pounding like thunder. The healers whispered to one another, their faces full of confusion. Finally, one looked at her and said the words she never expected. There are changes inside you, he said. Changes that should not be possible. Her breath caught, her hands trembled. What do you mean? She whispered, her voice thin. The healer hesitated, then spoke softly. It is early, very early. But we believe you are carrying life. The words fell like lightning. For a moment the room was silent. The alien girl's mind spun. Her chest burned, her vision blurred.
No, she said, shaking her head. That cannot be.
It is impossible. The healers looked at each other. Unsettled, we agree, one said. It should be impossible. Yet the signs are here. Daniel stood beside her. Stunned but calm, he reached for her hand. Though she did not move, his voice was steady, filled with awe. A child, he whispered. Our child. The alien girl pulled her hand away. Her eyes wide with fear. She could not believe. She could not trust such hope. Her whole life had been built on the truth that she could never give life. Now the healers were saying otherwise. It felt like a cruel joke from the universe. That night she sat alone, staring at the glowing river outside their home. Her body shook, her heart warred against itself. She pressed her hand to her stomach, whispering, Is it true? Or is it only another lie? Tears filled her eyes, not of sorrow but of confusion, of terror, of fragile hope. She remembered the laughter in her dreams, the sound of a child. Was it a warning or was it a promise? Daniel found her sitting there, silent and trembling. He did not speak at first, only sat beside her. Finally, he said softly, I know you are afraid, but I believe in you. And in this, his words wrapped around her like warmth, but still she could not accept them. she whispered sharply. Do not believe too much, or you will break. He shook his head, smiling faintly. Even if I break, I will still believe. The days passed, and the signs grew stronger. Her body changed slowly. Her strength rose and fell like tides. The healers continued to watch, still confused, still whispering. Some began to fear, saying it was unnatural. Others began to wonder if it was a miracle. The alien girl walked through her world, carrying a secret heavier than chains. Some looked at her with suspicion, others with awe. But none knew the storm inside her heart. Every night she lay awake, torn between fear and hope. Every morning Daniel smiled at her. Steady as always, she wanted to trust him, wanted to trust the life within her. But her fear whispered, it will vanish, it will die. It will leave you empty again. Still, the dreams of laughter continued. Louder now, clearer now, and slowly against her will, her heart began to wonder if the impossible was becoming real. The alien girl, once cursed, once broken, now carried the first signs of a miracle. A miracle that would test her, break her, and heal her. A miracle that would shake her world and silence the whispers forever. But for now, it was only a fragile spark of life. A spark that could vanish in the dark or grow into something greater than anyone believed. The news of the impossible could not stay hidden. The healers whispered, the neighbors guessed, and soon the word reached the ears of the mother who had forced the marriage, the mother who had carried the weight of family honor on her shoulders. When she first heard, she laughed in disbelief. A lie, she said coldly, it cannot be true. But the whispers grew louder, and the reports were confirmed again and again. Her daughter, the one marked as barren since childhood, was now carrying life. The mother's pride and doubt fought inside her chest. She wanted to believe, but she also feared, what if it was false? What if her daughter fell and the whole clan laughed at them? The mother, who had never feared battle or war, now feared shame more than death. She stormed into her daughter's home one evening, her cloak whipped behind her, her eyes sharp as blades. The alien girl stood near the window, her hands on her stomach, her face pale but calm. Daniel rose to greet the mother, his voice polite. Welcome, he said, but she brushed past him without a glance, her gaze locked only on her daughter. Is it true? The mother demanded, her voice echoing in the quiet room. The alien girl lifted her head slowly, her eyes shining but firm. Yes, mother, she said. The healers say I carry life. The mother's chest rose sharply. A mix of relief and suspicion, she stepped closer, her voice trembling between anger and hope. How can this be? You were told since birth it was impossible. The alien girl pressed her hand to her stomach, her voice low but steady. I do not know how, but it is real. I feel it. The mother studied her face, searching for weakness, searching for lies. But what she saw instead was strength, a strength she had not seen in her daughter before. For the first time, the mother's heart faltered. Perhaps she had been wrong to see her child as broken. Daniel stepped forward then, his voice calm but strong. It is not a curse, not an accident, it is a gift. The mother turned to him, her eyes blazing. You, she hissed. This is your doing. Daniel did not flinch, he only nodded. Yes, he said. It is ours, not hers alone, not mine alone. But ours. The mother's lips pressed into a thin line. Her pride burned, for she had never wanted to give credit to a human. Yet the truth stood before her, undeniable. Her daughter was carrying the first child of two worlds, and that child would change everything. The mother felt her knees weaken, but she straightened quickly, unwilling to show it. The alien girl watched her mother in silence. Her whole life had been under this woman's shadow. Under her judgment, now for the first time she felt free of it. She no longer needed her mother's approval. Yet part of her still longed for it. Part of her still hoped for softer words. But the mother gave no softness, only silence. At last she said, If this is real, then you are not broken. You are a miracle. The words cut deep, both gift and wound. The alien girl lowered her gaze, whispering, I was always more than broken, mother, you just never saw it. The mother's jaw tightened, shame flashing in her eyes. She turned sharply away, unwilling to face her own guilt. The news spread beyond the family. Across the city, across the world, voices rose. Some called it dangerous, unnatural, others called it holy, a sign of destiny. The alien girl could feel their eyes on her wherever she went. She was no longer invisible, no longer pitied. Now she was feared and worshipped, and neither felt like freedom. Daniel stayed close to her, his presence steady as always. When she trembled under the weight of whispers, he reminded her with a touch, with a word. "You are not alone," he said. "We walk this together." And for the first time she believed him fully. The spark of trust had become something greater, a flame that gave her strength, even as the world around her burned with judgment. The mother visited again days later, her eyes softer now, though she tried to hide it. She placed her hand on her daughter's shoulder, not gentle but not cruel either. "Do not fail," she said. "The eyes of two worlds are on you." The alien girl did not bow this time. She did not lower her eyes. She looked at her mother and said, "This is not about honor. This is about love." The mother flinched, for she had never spoken the word love with such weight. She left again, her heart heavy with thoughts she had never dared to face. And in the silence that followed, the alien girl stood taller. For the first time in her life, she felt not broken, not weak, not ashamed. She felt whole. And though the road ahead was still uncertain, though the miracle was still fragile, she knew she had found her strength. A strength born not from her mother's shadow, but from the bond she shared with the human who refused to let her fall.